Hello there, my name is Whemplar, and today I'm going to teach you how to build a fast, maneuverable, and aesthetic car in Trailmakers. We're going to go over stuff like aerodynamics, forces, and general tips and tricks. Let's get right into it. Alright, so here we are in build mode, and already we have a few choices to make. The first one being which seat we want to use. And for this, I'm thinking that I'm building kind of a sports car, so I'm gonna use the car seat right here, and I'm actually gonna slap another one on here, just in case I want to drive some friends around. And to not have two steering wheels, which would be pretty strange, I'm gonna go ahead and make this a passenger seat. And I'm just gonna go ahead and attach them with a 2x4. And now we're gonna go ahead and add some engines. Now, I want this to be a pretty decently powered car, so I think I'm gonna use 3 Dragon engines. Sounds pretty good to me. And I'm gonna just slap them on like this. And let's make the car a little longer by just adding some blocks. Okay, so now it's time to add wheels. And here I want some pretty decent traction overall, but I want a 1 block wide wheel. So I'm gonna choose the standard car wheel right here. And let's just duplicate and add like this. And we might have run into our first problem. This feels a little too thin to me, you know? So let's try to fix that. So first thing I'm gonna do is just widen the wheelbase like this. And just add some blocks right here. Alright, and then add some tubes right there. And now that I have this, I'm gonna take this as an opportunity to add steering, which we can just do with some steering hinges like this. And by default, this should be set up the way we want it. Let's see, A is that way, D is that way. Nice, and we should be able to drive. Okay, let's try to take this corner. So right now when I'm steering, I kind of feel like the car's rocking back and forth. And that is probably because we don't have any suspension at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some suspension, at least to the back wheels. But you see some straight suspension right here. And then bump up that to 2. And this should be feeling a lot better. And it does. But now all of a sudden, I feel like we have a kind of a different problem. Our car is pretty unstable. This here, if I try to turn, the car kind of just keeps turning, and it's pretty uncontrollable. But why is that? Well, to visualize what's happening, I put together 3 test cars. The first car has its center of mass symbolized by the pink dot at the same point as the center of the wheelbase, the green dot. The second car has a center of mass that is shifted back, and the last car has its center of mass far forwards. Let's see what happens when they take a turn. And as we can see, a centralized center of mass leads to pretty perfect turning. Having it far back leads to oversteering, and when it's far forwards, you get an understeering tendency. Alright, so let's check out our center of mass, which we can do by pressing settings and then forces. And well, there's our problem. So if we just add some temporary blocks here, like this, we can see that the center of our wheelbase is right around here, but our center of mass is pretty far behind that. To fix this, we can move our engines forwards, or add more weight to the front of the car. You can also add a spoiler, which pushes the back end of the car into the ground, making it more stable. Right now, our suspension is getting really compressed by all that downforce, so I actually want to go ahead here and add some double suspension. And as you can see, I'm actually adding the suspension sideways. And that's because I'm actually going to go ahead and add a tube block to actually connect it. So I'm going to do something like this, and then this. And you might have spotted that right now our suspension isn't actually attached to anything. So we might want to fix that. And I mean, a lot of how your car steers is up to preference, so feel free to play around with the spoilers and center mass and stuff like that. And as a finishing touch on the chassis, if you feel like you don't have enough air control, you can add some gyros to make sure you stick to landing. When you're happy with your chassis, it's time to shape the body of your car. And while I can't go into everything that goes into shaping your car, here are some common problems, fixes, and tips. Let's get into it. If there's one thing you should take away from this video to become a better builder, it is to use reference images. If you want to build a sports car, Google that and find one you like, then try to replicate it. You of course don't have to follow this to a T, but it's really useful to get basic dimensions and proportions correct, since that can be difficult to do without guide. Now let's see how you can make a good looking car still be functional. If you want a fast car, you have to think about aerodynamics, which you can enable by clicking settings and show aerodynamics. So while you're shaping, make sure to think about the blocks you place. In this example, I just placed down some basic wedges and I went 50 km/h faster. Something else to think about when it comes to aerodynamics is that you don't always have to add wedges, you can also just fill in space. So right here, instead of using more wedges to block the red arrows, I can just fill in the space and I'll only get the aerodynamics of the front wedges. And this is pretty useful for stuff like the interior of your car or wheel wells. Speaking of wheel wells, if you've tried to add them, you might have realized that the wheels clip into them, which performance-wise doesn't actually make your car any worse, but it looks pretty odd. To fix this, we can add 2 extra steering hinges, reverse them, and make the original steering hinges have double the speed and angle. As you can see, this fixes our wheel bite and our car looks way more realistic. And on the topic of your car being realistic, making the front flat has a huge penalty on our aerodynamics. We can fix this by using blocks like the L brackets, taillights, and 2x1 panels, which all offer us pretty flat shapes with decent aero. Something else well worth mentioning is that the blocks and decorations tab, such as the sharp air intake, are amazing for shaping, but they don't actually change or block aerodynamics, so if you have bad aero behind it, they will stay there. While pre-built windshields can work nicely, they take up a lot of space, so it could be worth it to try to build your own, which you can easily do with some basic wedges. If you want to add exhaust pipes, the actual exhaust blocks are usually a little too big. So instead of using those, we can use pipes, smoke generators, flares, or my personal favorite for sports cars, coffee mugs. And while we're working on the back of the car, we can of course add taillights, but in my opinion, hue light panels look a lot better, especially with a trick that I'll show later. And when you feel like you're done with the shaping of your car, it's time to get painting. Painting might seem difficult, but it's actually quite simple. Firstly, if you build in vibrant colors like me, you might want to start by coloring your car in something like black or dark gray, just in case you miss a spot. Then just hold Ctrl and multi-select all the blocks you want for the main color and select the color you want. And I think I'll choose marine blue. When that's done, it's time to start adding details. And for this car, I actually added individual streamlining to the seats so I could add just a little bit of extra color. Since the main color of this car is a dark blue, having a few accents of brighter blue is going to look quite nice. And as a bit of a color splash, I'm going to have the seats be a contrasting color, like red. At this point in the painting process, I realized that I wanted to have the engines be visible in the back, so I decided to make the wedges over them glass, but partially cover them with decals so you can still see the wedge shape. There are lots of ways to add headlights, but one way I like doing it is by adding a glow decal, but you could also use the glow skin, the lightning decal, etc. There really isn't a wrong answer here. For the grille, I like painting it in a brighter gray so it stands out, or sometimes a metallic color. For the inside of it, I like using the dashed line with tiling on, since that gives it a nice grille look. And since I already added some white details with the engines, I painted the spoiler white too. And to kind of bring the whole paint job together, I add 2 dashed lines across the hood, in the same color and distance apart as the streamlining, since they match up really nicely. And for some few extra details, I added tiled black squares to the brake light hue panels, which give off this really nice effect when I press S. I also make it road legal by adding a license plate, touch up the back coffee mugs with some metallic paint, and for the finishing touches I add white circle decals to all of the wheels. And with that, we're actually done with the car. And honestly, I'm really happy with it, so I hope that you found this build guide helpful and that I gave you some useful tips for the next time you build a car. And as a bit of a secret trick, if you added air control to your car, you can pitch forwards on the ground to initiate a drift, which can be pretty useful in racing scenarios. If you want to find this specific car, it will be on the workshop. Just search for Whemplar's race car. Make sure to subscribe to the Flashbulb channel for more build guides like this, but for now, this has been Whemplar, and I'll see you again the next time. Peace out.